Hello and welcome. Now I know there's at least 2 or 3 of you out there who enjoy watching videos about my attempts at bus preservation. So for those of you who do, I thought I'd slip this little video in just in between my usual releases just to confuse you. But for those of you who do enjoy watching these videos, there will be a few more of them in the next few months, and currently it's July 2025 for those of you watching on catch up. I've got lots to do. I've got the roof lights to fix on Leo. I've got to finish painting my other Bristol VR, PKE 809M. I've got yet another Bristol VR to try and sort out for a show in September. And I've got an AEC Swift to finish painting, as well as a revisit to the barn find Leyland Atlanteans, which featured in a previous video. If only I could clone myself. But I don't think the world would appreciate that, and it's not quite what the world needs right now. So ever since I moved my Leyland Leopard JKM 165V, which was new to Maidstone District and later moved over to Hastings District, to the Isle of Wight, she has unfortunately been in outside storage, and this is something that is going to continue. And the problem with outside storage is that it highlights any leaks, and Leo's destination blind, Leo's rear advert panel, and all the skylights do leak rather dramatically. It's fair to say that until I sheeted everything over and waterproofed it, that it was a bit like one of those old 1960s submarine movies when the submarine goes down too far and water comes in at every single orifice. Very slowly I'm working my way through all these leaks and putting in new window rubbers. And today you will join me doing the destination blind. And of course, living on the Isle of Wight in the middle of the holiday period, there's a road closure and a big diversion, which makes things a little bit harder getting over to the Isle of Wight Military and Heritage Museum where my buses live. But finally, we make it through all the road chaos, all the road diversions and all the traffic queues, and we arrive at the Isle of Wight Military and Heritage Museum at Northwood near Cowes. Now, if ever you're on the island, please do pop in and see these guys. It's an absolutely cracking museum, it really is, and they could do with every little bit of support that they get. Plus they have an absolutely cracking tea room that does an amazing midweek roast as well. There we go, plug over. Now, as I mentioned previously, both of my buses now live outside at the museum, where they are on display near the entrance to the main building. Now they're still outside and they're still in the car park, but it's a little bit closer to the building and they do look like they're part of the collection. And looking at the state of the window rubber and how much condensation is inside the destination box, you can see how badly it was leaking. That window rubber is completely past its best, isn't it? Look at that. That is absolutely awful. And there's a big gap there as well, which I did actually fill up at one point, but it's obviously the rubber's contracted even more and it's just popped out. So before we go any further, it's time to take the old rubber and the old glass out. Now I say glass, it's actually perspex. And I hate fitting perspex into vehicles like this because the perspex flexes, the area around the destination box is made out of fiberglass and that flexes and the rubber flexes. So everything moves against you. And there we go, there's a close-up of those rubbers. Look at that, absolutely awful. Hello, well you join me on the back seat of Leo. Don't worry, nothing funny's going on at all. This is where all the naughty kids sit, so you're in good company. So I've got a couple of rubbers for you. So this is the new one that I found on my Mercedes-Benz minibus when I was having a clear out. The one that's been sold and recently went off. And I've been thinking about getting some window rubber for doing not only the destination blind on Leo, but also the skylights as well, because they're all going to need doing. And they're all, bar one, this sort of window rubber here that you can see. And this is brand new, old stock, which is a favourite eBay expression, isn't it? And it's covered in this rather strange waxy finish, I've assumed to stop it from perishing when it's in storage. But underneath that, it's incredibly good. Like new. So compared with the old window rubber there, yes, you can see there's a definite difference, isn't there? I'm assuming it's the same size. If not, it will be made to fit one way or another, as long as it holds it in place and it's watertight as well, which is the main thing. The aim of the game is make everything nice and watertight. So now Leo's shifted round, as you would see in a previous video. Leo is now sort of facing towards the southwest direction, and we get a lot of weather on the Isle of Wight from the southwest, and we have a little puddle of water down here on the floor from the emergency exit door, which is something else that I've partly sealed. I'm going to put a little sign on the door saying that this door is not in use, it's not an emergency exit and everything, just for legalities. As you can see behind me, there's an emergency window, and what I'm going to do is get a little emergency hammer and put that next to where the emergency door is on this side. I say most of the time there's only Melissa, myself, there's going to be Josh or Paul in here. We don't carry passengers on this old bus, so there's no point really having an emergency door or anything like that. And as long as you put on there the door's not in use, it covers it. If VOSA decided to stop us and say, well, why is this emergency door not working? Because it's no longer a door. I don't know if you remember the old buses that I think it was Kelvin Scott, Strathclyde, it might have been Strathclyde, when they had their fire at Larkfield Garage, and we'll be doing a video on the fire at Larkfield and the vehicles that came, because the vehicles they had on hire came from absolutely all over the place. And I'm sure some of those, they had some of the centre doors panelled up and it said, "This is not a door," in big letters across it. It's going to be a little bit like that. So the door will be kept in place for aesthetics and to keep it original, but where the back end of Leo droops ever so slightly, you've got to remember that there's no supporting chassis structure underneath where I'm sitting at the moment, which is quite worrying when you're talking about 18 stone of Jake sat here with 2 window rubbers. But there's no supporting chassis from the rear of the axle. The axle is where the chassis finishes, just the other side of that. So everything underneath here and everything from here is supported from the bodywork all around. And the door, obviously, being a cutout in that supporting structure, is a natural weak spot. So the body tends to droop a little bit over time, and that's what happens. The door doesn't seat properly, you open it and it just distorts ever so slightly and it starts to leak. So by filling it in and keeping it closed and locking it closed, you're kind of aiding the support of the vehicle. We don't need it. We can work around that. So that's the plan, and hopefully little puddles like that will be a thing of the past. So we've moved to the front of Leo because it's a little bit cooler here. We've still got the Union flags up from the D-Day celebrations, and it's a little bit cooler in here. I haven't opened the skylights yet either though. So as you can see, I've done a little test fit, and it fits. That overlaps there a little bit. I actually cut it a little bit longer, and it's not on there properly by a long shot. And I'm not ascertaining that I am an expert fitter of window rubbers or glazing. This is just like a little test fit, just to make sure it goes and works all right. So far, it's looking promising. Now I've got to make this very straight, flat rubber fit around all these 90-degree and 180-degree curves. So wish me luck with that. So here we go. It's time to fit the destination blind. And you can see there was a bit of a wind on, which isn't particularly great when you're trying to do this, because the wind always seems to catch the perspex and waggle it in a different direction. And there's one thing you don't want to be doing when you're up a ladder like that, is waggling around in the wind. Now, as I said, everything is against you when you do things like this. It's not so bad with proper glass, but with this, the perspex flexes, the area around it, the fiberglass dome flexes, everything is moving, and it does induce an awful lot of swear words, which is why I'm doing the narration and the commentary over the top of the video. Otherwise, we would rapidly move from PG area through to X18 area. And the majority of it is now in. It just needs finishing off. Well, there you go. I've managed to get it in. It certainly isn't perfect, 100%. There's a little bit of a kink in it. And I think by time I'll be able to convince it to move over a little bit. However, it is now waterproof, which is the main thing. I will have to return and obviously give it a little bit of fine fettling, which is what it needs. but it's another job done. And the thing is, when you don't always own vehicles and you just see them at shows, you tend not to realise what goes on behind the scenes. And annoyingly, jobs like this tend not to be overly visible, but they are an absolute pain in the to do. And it's led me with a bit of a dilemma, because I want to re-rubber all of the skylights on Leo, but the Perspex is the original 1980s Perspex, which is going to be very fragile after being out in the sun for 40 odd years, isn't it? Coupled to the fact that the aluminium frame will be flexing as well as potentially the Perspex flexing and cracking, makes me think that I might just laminate over them. What do you reckon on that? As a quick fix, what do you think? Do you think that's just being lazy, laminating over the top of it? Or do you think it's a good idea because it's going to cause too much damage to remove the ancient Perspex and the window rubbers? I'd love to hear your comments on that. But I think anything's got to be better than the plastic sheeting that's over at the moment. And as long as the bus is waterproof, it's all good, isn't it? Well, I do hope you enjoyed this special edition of Confessions of a Bus Nut and this extra video that's been slotted in between my usual releases. If you did enjoy it, please show your appreciation by liking and sharing this video. And don't forget to comment on bits and pieces I've done throughout the course of this video. I love reading your comments and I always try and reply to them individually if I can. Once again, all money raised goes to the upkeep of buses in the Southern Counties Omnibus collection like Leo. Once again, thanks very much for watching. Bye for now.